Good evening, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. It's just an eternal struggle to film and have any sunshine and wear glasses. Sorry that it's Reflection City. I need to get some better light. Today I want to talk a bit about a lovely little meme that was going around. It was on a Facebook page this morning while I was enjoying my coffee, a local food movement, I think. And it was talking about what to do with your hell strip. I don't know if you're familiar with the term hell strip. In where I live, it is the name for that strip of grass or turf or soil that exists between the sidewalk and the road, and you are responsible to care for it. Now, I live in a part of Portland that the city promised sidewalks to back in 1980 something and has yet to deliver on that promise. So I don't have a hell strip in my yard. But many other parts of Portland, and obviously communities all over the world, have them. They are difficult spaces to grow, difficult spaces to manage, because there's car traffic coming by, there's foot traffic, they are property that you are required to maintain, but sometimes there's limits or regulations or rules about what you can grow in them. And often I see in urban areas folks resorting to putting down plastic fabric, landscaping fabric, and gravel on top of them. So I thought I would talk about this meme that says, let's think about a different way to treat our hell strips. Let's think about growing food. Now, this is not the same thing as a meme I talked about a while back, where folks are saying the solution to world hunger is to just grow things in urban spaces along the street. But this is a different angle. This is saying, why not better utilize the space that we have in urban spaces? Probably won't cure world hunger. It won't create free food for the masses, but there are some benefits. So I'd like to talk through 6 things to think about if you are thinking about planting edibles in your hell strip. So number 1 is be aware of pollution from cars. And not just from cars, be aware of pollution in general. The hell strip is flanked on either side by the road and by the sidewalk. And that means trash tends to accumulate in it, pollution from cars. And also, if you live in a cold climate where they salt the roads in the winter, you are gonna end up with salt spray up on your plants. Or even more so, snow plows moving salt-drenched piles of snow up onto your hell strip in the winter. So be aware that impacts what you may or may not choose to grow there. Number 2, be aware that folks walking down the sidewalk need room to pass around and under whatever you grow. It's really idyllic to have these pictures of these lush, overflowing, little 3-foot by 10-foot or 14-foot hell strips that are just blossoming with abundance, right? But the reality is you still need to leave a right of way on the sidewalk. And I think not only for those of us that are able-bodied, I know there is a hell strip down by the high school and it's been planted by the city, but someone has gone along and pruned all of the trees so that the canopy hits between about 5'8" and about 7 foot. So I walk down it and I get a face full of branches because that's where the tree is overhanging the sidewalk. So whoever designed that designed it for people who are shorter than I am. And that needs to be taken into account. How are folks using the sidewalk and the space overhanging it? But also, we need to make sure that it is still ADA accessible for folks who are not as able-bodied. We need to make sure there are not things growing up over the sidewalk that become a tripping hazard or prevent folks from using their mobility devices. So make sure that when you are planting your hell strip, you are aware of the fact that it does abut a community space, which is the sidewalk, and be courteous to folks who need to use it. Number 3, accept that folks may help themselves to the food growing in your hell strip. I think it's really important that we go into hell strip gardening or any kind of front yard gardening with the expectation that a percentage of the harvest will go to folks that we don't know, folks that will come along and graze and glean and help themselves. It's really easy to develop a posture of bitterness and resentment if we assume we're going to get 100% of the harvest. But if we go into it with a framework and a mindset of this is a community space, I'm assuming it is something that I'm going to share with the community. Not only the beauty is to be shared with the community, but the harvest itself. We will feel successful when we get any portion, and we will bless those who pass by our home. I know for me, I don't have a health strip, as I said, but I always grow edibles in the front yard, right up against the street. I have a video about my front yard bed, and I have a large plum tree and a smaller plum tree and a bush cherry right up against the street. Folks ask me every year if they can help themselves. Folks sometimes help themselves without asking. Last year, someone cut a bunch of my grapes off my grape arbor right up by the street. But because that food is at the front of my property, I have that expectation that I go into it with a posture of share the surplus, with a permaculture mindset of letting people be blessed and nourished by what comes out of my garden and not being frustrated and angry when a portion of it goes to somebody else. Number 4, anything is better than grass or gravel, ecologically speaking. When this meme got shared, the criticism was, edible things are not that pretty, and that you have to be aware that it looks trashy or messy, or the implication is it looks impoverished to be growing your own food. If you are somebody who needs to be growing your own food in your front yard, that's somehow stigmatized as lower class, I guess, and less beautiful. I personally think our edible plants, whether they're in flower or in fruit or fully leafed out, are gorgeous. And you can absolutely create an edible health strip that is beautiful and productive. And I'm having a distraction here. Hi, baby. You good girl. Okay. What were we talking about before my dog was very needy? When this meme got shared, there was one of the first comments was a criticism of like, ugh, this is ugly. Growing edibles up by the street is ugly and it's gonna bring down the value of your neighborhood, and folks are gonna think that it's messy and dirty. And the implication was just that if you are growing your own food with invisibility of the public, that's somehow a signifier of your poverty or somehow a signifier of something that is lower class. And we really need to destigmatize that for so many reasons. If we want to push towards sustainability, if we want to push toward ending classism, if we want to push toward effective utilization of any kind of valuable real estate in urban spaces, we need to stop that nonsense. You can absolutely grow food in your front yard, in your health strip, within view of other folks, and it can be beautiful. It is not a dichotomy of grow food or have pretty landscaping. It is not a inherent contradiction to say I have beautiful edible landscaping. So obviously take really good care of your strip. This leads to number 5 on my list, which is be conscientious and be conscious of the fact that your front yard, and especially your health strip, is an ambassador for permaculture, for sustainable living, for urban agriculture, that you are communicating a message to the public when you grow food on full display. And I know that that may be controversial for me to say it, but I really think we have an obligation to be ambassadors for permaculture, to be folks who can show the world that growing your own food, using whatever space you have, and in urban spaces, that health strip is often a significant chunk of ground that really can be utilized for something besides dirt and gravel. And we can communicate to folks, this is what is possible with this kind of space if you think a different way. If you shift your outlook, if you are aware of the message that you're broadcasting to passersby, you will be more conscientious about taking care of your health strip and about what you plant there in the first place. Again, knowing some folks might graze off of it. Maybe you want to plant fruit trees where you really want to share the harvest. Someone in my sister's neighborhood has raspberries in her health strip because she knows the kids who walk by on their way home from school love to pick and eat them. I don't have raspberries up in the very front of my garden, but I really want to find a way to add them because I know universally children love to pick picnic and enjoy raspberries. I think if we can just really remember that we are preaching the gospel of sustainable urban agriculture when we plant our health strips with food, keep in mind the design. We want it to be effective, and effective can be aesthetic at the same time. Speaking of planting fruit trees, this leads to number 6, and I think sometimes folks don't necessarily consider this when they are first planting their health strip. Where I am in Portland and most municipalities in the US, you are financially and legally responsible for what happens from the health strip back to your property line. That includes the sidewalk. So when you plant a tree there, what is that tree's root system going to be doing over the next 20, 30, 40 years? If it's going to be popping up the sidewalk, you are then legally financially responsible for the proper upkeep and maintenance of the sidewalk. So really choose carefully if you're going to plant trees in your health strip. Think not only for you, but in permaculture, we're thinking about permanent agriculture. So we're thinking not only about ourselves, we're not only having people care for ourselves and the folks walking by our health strip and using it now, we're thinking about the folks who will be utilizing those spaces in the decades to come. So just think about what you're gifting people down the road when you plant a tree in your health strip. I think that's super important. Now, if you plant a fruit tree, also think about what that fruit tree will do when it drops its fruit. Here in Portland, we have the Portland Fruit Tree Project. Cannot recommend them enough. If you and folks who come by do not adequately harvest that fruit, think about touching base with and connecting with your local nonprofit that will come and harvest and use that food for a charitable cause. You could also put out big signs. You could post in your local Buy Nothing group or your local neighborhood pages and forums saying, hey, you know that really pretty plum on the corner of, Hazel and 8th Street? That's my house. Help yourself to plums whenever you want. Those kinds of things build community in our neighborhoods. They help foster relationships and goodwill in our neighborhoods. Again, that helps us be an ambassador, but it also helps us be conscientious about the use now, 10 years from now, 20 years, 50 years from now, in terms of how that fruit tree will be impacting our community. In conclusion, yes, growing a little bit of food in your health strip is not going to feed the entire planet. But we're talking about urban spaces that are maintained by homeowners or renters, that are maintained by the occupants of the household. It's not nearly the same thing as some of those other memes that were like, just plant random food in urban spaces. Because there's no caretaking there. There's no pruning. There's no upkeep. There's no responsibility to harvest. In a health strip, you are responsible to take care of it. And it is an extension of your garden. It is an extension of the message of sustainable living. It is preaching that message of permaculture, and it is fostering goodwill. So use those health strips. Don't listen to those naysayers who say you either have to put turf or gravel or some kind of spiky shrub that doesn't need pruning. Utilize that real estate, especially in urban areas where folks have limited access to space. Those health strips are often sunny. They're often high potential for being really productive in terms of the food that comes out of them and in terms of fostering relationships in our community. They are good earth care and good people care and definitely good fair share, and that makes them good permaculture. So I hope that maybe if you have a health strip, you would consider sharing it with me on my Facebook page under this post when I share it on Parkrose Permaculture's Facebook page. When I share the link to this video, show me some pictures of your health strips. I would love to see them. I wish we had sidewalks in Parkrose. The city owes them to us. They repeatedly over the years are like, oh yeah, sidewalks are coming in a year or two, and then they cancel it because they lose the funding. So we don't have sidewalks. We're on a bus route. Cars speed by here. Children walking to school need sidewalks in Parkrose. I'm perfectly willing to have part of my front yard taken out and to get a health strip so that it means a safe path for children and folks in our community, but we don't have one yet. So that's my little grumble about living in Parkrose, my lovely neighborhood. More a grumble at the city of Portland than it is about my neighborhood itself. But if you have a health strip in your neighborhood, please share with me on my Facebook page. I would love to see what you have going on. I will be back later this week for my permaculture garden. Now I have to go give my teenager a haircut and get dinner going, and I hope you all are enjoying this gorgeous evening, and I'll be back very soon. Thanks. Just come on in. Come on in.
Script.
I have a script. I'm just finishing and I'm gonna cut these here. It's all right. Just
One sec. It's all falling. I'm not trying to be loud. I'm trying. I probably shouldn't record.